hard way for what? Every time you see me, you want to mess with me. I'm tired of it. It stops today.
This guy right here is forcibly trying to lock somebody up for breaking up a fight.
Everybody's standing here, they told you I didn't do nothing.
Hello, everybody. I want to thank everybody for their support, for their continued support. And like Reverend said, this fight ain't over. It's just begun. I'm determined to get justice for my husband because he shouldn't have been killed in that way. He shouldn't have been killed in any way. He should be here celebrating Christmas and Thanksgiving and everything else with his children and his grandchildren.
Mayor de Blasio and Commissioner Bratton stood side by side, vowing a thorough investigation will be done.
It is too early to jump to any conclusions about this case. We must wait for all the facts and details of the incident to emerge. But I assure all New Yorkers there will be a full and thorough investigation.
Hold on.
Don't touch me, please. Don't touch me.
And he can't. Why? Because a cop did wrong. Somebody that get paid to do right did wrong, and he's not held accountable for it. But my husband's death will not be in vain. As long as I have a breath in my body, I will fight the fight to the end. Thank you.
Sir, it's EMS. Come on. We're here to help, all right? We're here to help you. We're getting the stretcher, all right?
Eric Garner tried to stop a fight. Eric Garner threw his hands up when the police wanted to attack him.
The person who did the videography of this,
yes,
that person was indicted by a grand jury in Staten Island over gun charges.
Get it? Someone was indicted. They got the shooter of the video. Let that be a lesson to you kids out there. Photographing crime does not pay. But what's so hard to understand about this is that for months, we've been going back and forth about what really happened with Darren Wilson and Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Did Brown have his hands up? Did he not have his hands up? Was Wilson afraid for his life when he killed Brown? Reasonable people, as well as plenty of ones, could... Okay, their pictures didn't come up. Could reach different conclusions. But in this case, there was no ambiguity. Even with clarity, though, people continued to blame this death on anything but the injustices of a flawed system.
What a lot of people don't understand is that man was a big man.
He's a huge individual.
Garner outweighed the officer by probably 150 pounds.
He is Gigantor! He is afloat in a parade! They had to bring him down. He was the abominable bro man. Okay, yeah, he outweighed one cop by 150 pounds. What about the other 5 cops? Or maybe that's just how much racial progress America has made. You know, it used to be black people were only 3/5 of a white person. Now they're like 6. Unless there's some other reason his size is relevant.
If he had not had asthma and a heart condition and was so obese that almost definitely he would not have died from this, the police had no reason to know that he was in serious condition.
Please. Asthma, heart disease, obesity, yeah, those are serious conditions, but come on. The medical examiner's report said Garner died from compression of the neck and compression of the chest. That sounds more like death by choking than death by chocolate. You know what I'm talking about. The NYPD patrol guide defines a chokehold as any pressure to the throat or windpipe which may prevent breathing or reduce intake of air.
Friends and family hugged and cried as a large group of pallbearers carried the huge white coffin into Bethel Baptist Church.
There was a video that's going around, and somebody that I said, man, somebody was brave enough to see this video and put this video up, and you're going to meet this man right now. Young man, what's your name?
Ramsey Orta.
It's sad when we see the innocent situation like that. What made you capture that? Tell us about that whole situation of what Biggie you first meant to you, how close you are. We know this is a family-based neighborhood, Tompkinsville, Staten Island. I've been living out here all my life. Tell us about that, because I don't even know where to start.
Well, I know Biggie for about 4 years now, and he was a good dude. He gave everybody money. Anybody asked him for anything, he'll give it up. If it was a shirt off his back, he'll give it to him. And I mean, that's just corrupted cops for you. They come jump out on us for no reason due to the fact of history we have with them. And I mean, in all actuality, he wasn't doing nothing but sitting and having a conversation about where we was gonna go eat on the weekend. Other than that, police didn't want to listen, saying that he wasn't breathing by the time he hit the floor. They was going against our word, and they just continued to do so, and he ended up passing.
Now, you happen to catch this on a cell phone?
Yes.
I did not sell nothing. Because every time you see me, you want to harass me, you want to stop me, trying to sell cigarettes. I'm minding my business, officer. I'm minding my business. Please just leave me alone. I told you the last time, please just leave me alone.
Did you know it was going in this negative direction? Like, listen, let me pull this phone out, man, because this thing is going in a direction. We probably don't have the power to stop them, but this camera is powerful.
Oh, yeah.
That was remarkable, by the way.
Yeah, I knew something else was gonna go down because prior, that week before this incident, some other guy, and also my friend, got beat up by the same cops. I'm actually dealing with the police myself in another situation, so I already knew for my safety just to pull out the camera because I can't intervene.
He can go first, right? I don't think so. I think you are going. We're going to try to get him up on the stretcher. It'll take like 6 minutes.
All right, so we've established that police used appropriate force against a dangerously large but incredibly fragile, out-of-shape monster weakling. Again, they would just want you to know, against all available criminology statistics, that everyone is equal under the law.
People are saying very casually that this was done out of racial motives or violation of civil rights. There's not a hint there that anyone used any racial epithet.
So the cops got to use the N-word for it to be racism? You've never heard the phrase, a picture's worth 1,000 epithets? I don't know that people are saying that this cop is racist, but it seems the escalation of these incidents may be a byproduct of a system that's applied unequally and with prejudice. Because if it's not that, what is it?
In this case, the police officer was dealing with a criminal who was resisting arrest. Maybe if Mr. Brown hadn't committed his crimes, right, and this gentleman hadn't resisted arrest, they wouldn't be dead today.
Yeah, or if they didn't choke
He's
him.
alleging the fact that he's saying that he's being followed by the NYPD, that the NYPD is harassing, that the NYPD,
Definitely.
since the release of this video, has been on his tail.
Oh yes,
I think that's
4 o'clock in the morning. We're laying down, and my whole room lights up, and I'm like, what is that? And we look out the window. It's a police car. They're driving by and put the spotlight into my window. What was that for?
Did the cops ever say anything to you? Did they ever say anything to your husband saying this is a direct result as to the video that you gave?
They told him, you know, because me and my husband, well, we spoke a few times. He told me, he said, when they arrested him, they said, they laughed at him, basically, isn't karma a bitch? Like, well,
Yeah.
excuse my French, but, you know, they basically came out and told him this. And he said, so what are you trying to tell me?
Yeah, she told her husband to fight this case, don't give up, not to take a plea deal, and because they just trying to trump some charges up on him just because he shot this video. And I believe that 110%. Because what they was doing to this couple, no different than how they did Dr. King or Malcolm X or anybody else when they wanted to start intimidating, harassing, and stalking. You know, these cops in NYPD, I mean, they something else. I mean, they are truly a gang. That's what they are.
My father meant everything to me.
The church filled to the rafters and so hot inside, this
woman needed to be carried out, as hundreds remembered the 43-year-old father of 6 they say was the victim of excessive force.
What was discussed inside that grand jury room now revealed. And right now, the images coming in, the growing protests here in New York City, demonstrators on the move tonight, the crowds growing from Seattle to Atlanta as well. Of course, all of it after this. Eric Garner, an unarmed black man, a father and husband, forced to the ground, telling police 11 times during all of this that he could not breathe. He later died. Tonight, a big question being asked. If the medical examiner determined this was a homicide, why no charges? And we now hear from Eric Garner's children for the first time. ABC's Ron Claiborne leading us off again tonight.
The grand jury watched 4 separate videos of the moments leading to Eric Garner's death. But this is the version the world has seen.
Who wants to do what? Who does sell cigarette to?
Eric Garner arguing with this officer who accused him of selling loose cigarettes. Standing by, Officer Daniel Pantaleo.
I'm minding my business, officer.
Then Pantaleo moves in.
Don't touch me, please.
He slips an arm under Garner's right arm, the other around his neck. It looks like a chokehold. He tries to force Garner down. 2 other officers swoop in. All 4 cops now wrestling Eric Garner. The whole time, Officer Pantaleo on top of him, keeping that seeming chokehold a full 15 seconds. Garner says, "I can't breathe," again and again, 11 times.
I can't breathe. I can't breathe.
Moments later, Garner stops moving. Police try to clear the scene. Officer Pantaleo spent 2 hours in front of the grand jury telling them he did not put Garner in a chokehold, which the NYPD bans, but executed a takedown, as he was trained to do. The 23-person, mostly white grand jury met for 9 weeks. They would have needed 12 votes to indict. The outcry instantaneous. Garner's wife responding angrily to words of condolence from Officer Pantaleo.
But also for a family member has offered his condolences. Will the family find it in their heart to accept it? Would you accept it?
Hell no. The time for remorse would have been when my husband was yelling to breathe. That would have been the time for him to show some type of remorse or some type of care for another human being's life when he was screaming 11 times that he can't breathe. So there's nothing that him or his prayers or anything else would make me feel any different. No, I don't accept his apology. No, I could care less about his condolences. No, I could care less. He's still working. He's still getting a paycheck. He's still feeding his kids. And my husband is 6 feet under. And I'm looking for a way to feed my kids now.
And today we're hearing from Garner's children in an interview with Yahoo's Katie Couric.
I was disappointed. It's still like, why? You know, you seen him die on national TV just like everybody else. Why?
On Saturday, thousands marched in Staten Island, New York, to protest the death of Eric Garner, who died on July 17th after being placed in a police chokehold as he was repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe." The death of the 43-year-old African-American father of 6 has sparked a larger national debate about the New York Police Department's use of excessive force and the illegal police chokehold. Many called for the officers involved in the case to be brought to justice. Democracy Now! Was in Staten Island on the scene. We're heading to the beginning of the march, which will take place where Eric Garner was killed in an illegal police chokehold. But as we walk the streets of Staten Island, you can see that most of the stores are closed up, though this would be a busy Saturday afternoon. We're going to that corner.
I'm Erica Snipes Garner. I'm the daughter of Eric.
How old are you?
I'm 24. My dad was a loving man. He was a humble man, and he was a nice man. Like, he was very nice. I mean, you could never get a no out of him. Like, he did whatever he could for anybody who came around him. Anybody who came around him was, you know, touched by his graces. Seeing the videotape, I was very traumatized. I was very, like, horrified. It was horrible. Just seeing my father die on national TV is just horrible. You know, I gotta live with this forever.
What does it mean to see so many people, more than 1,000 people out today?
My father's voice is being heard, and you know, we standing as one. Everybody's coming together for the right cause.
It's a site where Eric Garner died in an illegal police chokehold. There is a makeshift memorial here with candles and posters right at the Bay Beauty Supply Shop here in Staten Island. Some of the posters say, "Bust Pantaleo now," one of the police officers involved with his killing, "Justice for Eric Garner." And just a few feet from here, we can see Ramsey Orta and his wife, Chrissy Ortiz. Ramsey held up his cell phone and filmed what happened to Eric Garner right here. They don't want to talk today. But after the coroner's office declared it a homicide, Ramsey Orta was arrested, and then so was his wife, Chrissy. There are more than 1,000 people here, haven't begun to count, awaiting the march and the rally to honor Eric Garner and make the connections between Eric Garner's death here in Staten Island at the hands of police and Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. The Reverend Al Sharpton introduces Eric Garner's widow.
I want Esau and the mother. This is the widow and mother of Eric Garner.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say. Like, thank you so much for your support for me, my mother-in-law, my children, my grandchildren. We miss him so much. I don't even know what else to say. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time out to come out and support me and get justice for my husband.
We have a retired police officer who's here in support of what we're doing, and at this time I want to bring Carlton Berkeley to the stage.
But we say to the good cops, when you stand by and let them bad cops do and tarnish the NYPD, you just as bad as the rest of them, and all of you should be held accountable. And one other thing I want to say, the reason why we want all of the cops in Eric Garner's case to be held accountable and arrested is because when our kids are outside and there's a group of them and one decides to do something, they always grab the other four and charge them with acting in concert. So in Eric Garner's case, when those cops stood by and he said 11 times, "I can't breathe," and they did nothing, they held accountable too, and we want them arrested.
The officers wanted to place handcuffs on Mr. Garner, and the officers were initially cautious. But when they moved in, the worst happened.
Hold on. Don't touch me, please.
Came over.
Don't touch me.
Damn, man.
All right, stop.
Use your hands, buddy.
Where your hand, buddy? I can't breathe.
Once again, police beating up on people.
Back up.
Right here.
Back up and get on that steps.
Okay.
Back up.
All he did was break up a fight. And this is what happens for breaking up a fight. This shit is crazy.
Everybody back up.
He can't breathe. Look, now I mean, they gave this man a seizure.
Yo, move out the way. Yo.
It's my brother. We live here.
You know what? Back up this way. Everybody now back up. It's now going to become a crisis. Back it up. Back it up.
I'm going to my house.
No. This way. Let's go.
Can't go in my
the house or that way?
All right, I go that way.
Pick a choice.
I'm getting my
Let's
bike.
Go. You had your chance to get your bike, sir. Staying over there right now. We haven't seen it.
He's all right. He's good. It's nothing to do with the fight. It's something to do with something else.
The officer who used the hold, Daniel Pantaleo, was called before a grand jury and testified for 2 hours. He's now free and clear of any local and state charges, but the feds say they will investigate the case. Talking Point does not know what happened
And until we read the grand jury transcripts, which are sealed right now, nobody can know. But that does not stop some agitators from stirring up controversy. However, I will say that upon seeing the video that you just saw and hearing Mr. Garner say he could not breathe, I was extremely troubled. I would have loosened my grip. I desperately wish the officer would have done that. Eric Garner was obese. He had asthma. He was in no condition to absorb what befell him. Yes, he should not have resisted, but all Americans, every one of us, should pity Mr. Garner and his family. He did not deserve what happened to him. And I think Officer Pantaleo and every other American police officer, every one, would agree with me. He didn't deserve that. Is my assessment of the situation fair, first of all?
I didn't know what to expect when I came on tonight, Bill, but I am pleased to hear you say some of what you had to say. But the bottom line for me is when you suggest earlier that we don't know what happened. No, you weren't there and I wasn't there, but that video camera is abundantly clear to anyone who will watch it what happened that day. And what we have here is, as you've already noted, an illegal chokehold caught on tape. The coroner says that this is a homicide. End of story. There is no way in my mind or anybody else's mind, I believe, that's looking at this for what it is, that we can justify a no indictment from this grand jury. It just doesn't add up, Bill.
All right, let me play devil's advocate. First of all, the chokehold is not illegal. It's against department policy. It's not illegal.
That's illegal. That's illegal.
Against department policy is not a criminal offense. It's a disciplinary action.
You're splitting
No,
hairs.
no,
it was wrong for him to have done it.
Let me explain.
Right.
The officer was docketed. He lost his shield. He lost his gun. When you violate New York City Department policy, that is what happens to you. You're not prosecuted. Now, the prosecutor in Staten Island took it a step further because the medical examiner rightly said it was a homicide because the man died in a violent confrontation. So the grand jury sits, as many as 25. It's far more than Ferguson. And you've got to get 12 grand jurors in New York State to say, yes, there should be an indictment. They said no. I'm with you that I saw what happened, and it was very troubling. I don't think the police officer meant to kill Mr. Garner. I don't think he went in with that. He meant to stop him from resisting arrest. Are you with me so far? Do you agree so far?
I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
I disagree in the sense that the grand jury saw evidence, and I don't know what they saw in addition to what we saw, but there's no way, Bill, you could look at that videotape and come back with a no indictment, period. We can go all around the block here. When you're applying something that's against department policy, it's caught on tape. The coroner once again says it's a homicide. How do you come back with no indictment? Here's my point. This grand jury system is becoming a fraud. Prosecutors now, because they want to act like this was done under due process, they turn to these grand juries. These grand juries continue to turn back these to send out these no indictments, and the value of black life in this country continues every day to have less and less respect. That's the bottom line.
The video shows Eric Garner talking to officers, pleading his case. Police say the 43-year-old Staten Island man was selling untaxed cigarettes. Just 2 months ago, Garner was arrested for a similar crime. But this time, he was adamant, non-compliant but not aggressive, demanding he be left alone. The video goes on to show officers wrestling Garner to the ground, the officer on his back, placing one arm around Garner's neck to subdue him. Police Commissioner Bratton called this maneuver a chokehold. Garner, who weighs more than 300 pounds and stands well over 6 feet tall, repeatedly tells police he could not breathe.
After he was telling him, I can't breathe, he just went limp.
This woman, who identified herself as Garner's first cousin, said her loved one was not an aggressive person.
He wasn't a violent person. He was not at all.
Police say Garner went into cardiac arrest as he was being placed into custody. Less than 24 hours after his death, the area near Victory Boulevard and Bay Street became a rallying point for many in the community as they demanded justice.
Ezel 4, this happened in South Central LA. Shot in the back 3 times, by the LAPD this summer. We all know about Michael Brown. This is his portrait, high school photo, graduation. Truth, Just Us, and American Way. We are Mike Brown. May he rest in peace, rest in power. All of us are very disappointed by the decision made in Ferguson. Eric Garner. We've all seen the footage shot by the very courageous Ramsey Orta. For the last 22 years, it has been prohibited for NYPD to use the chokehold. Wasn't the case for Eric Garner, choked to death by the NYPD.
Grand juries almost always do what the prosecutor wants. So maybe we need to look at, when it comes to the police, if prosecutors really don't want to indict them because they work with them and they need them and they're on the same show with them. They're colleagues. And that makes for a very uncomfortable situation.
Last Tuesday night, I'm at home watching television, and they're showing helicopter shots of the protests here in New York City.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? They're coming up this way. So I jumped on my bike, met the protesters at 49th and 7th Avenue, and I was with them the rest of the night, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see the diversity, the youth organized. So people think that young people don't care, and that's some BS, because it was nothing but young people out there. I keep using that word amazing. It was amazing to me to see young white kids screaming, chanting, Black Lives Matter. You know, and I've been guilty of this too. It's not just necessarily a black-white thing. This is about people who see an injustice. I know we shouldn't try to say, well, that's Ferguson, that's LA, this, that, but if what we saw recently with protests, if justice not prevail with Eric Garner, I think the reaction's gonna pale in comparison to what happened with in Ferguson. You know, not to make comparisons,
right?
But there's a power there. There's a power there.
No, there definitely is.
You know, power, and I pray to God that what happened to Ferguson, as far as the grand jury, does not happen. Staten Island, you had witnesses, but we really see. I mean, with the tape by Ramsey Orta.
Yeah. Yeah.
With Eric Garner, it is there.
Right.
But there's a precedent. The Rodney King tape.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got off. I don't understand how, if you could see something, and it's not industrial light magic effects.
Right.
You know,
right.
This is
It's raw footage.
This is raw footage. I don't know how the decision's gonna be made that someone's not going to jail.
I can't breathe. 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 I can't breathe.
Protests all over the country last night. People, many of them want to have their voices heard. And ABC's Ron Claiborne joins us now with the latest. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning to you, Robin. This is the site of that violent confrontation last July that ended in the death of Eric Garner. Overnight, many people out here both stunned and angry about that grand jury decision. Overnight, hundreds of people pouring into New York's Times Square to protest the grand jury's stunning decision. In Grand Central Terminal, hundreds more laying down on the floor in what they called a die-in. Others laying down on a New York City highway.
This is stupid!
Police officers arresting dozens. Protests growing nationwide from Oakland, California, Philadelphia, Atlanta, and Washington, D.C. Overnight, the family of Eric Garner expressing their grief.
How could we put our trust in the justice system when they fail us like this?
An unarmed man was subjected to a chokehold
And the result is he is no longer with us.
As Sharpton speaks, Garner's wife collapses by his side. There are new calls for more disciplinary action against the officers who confronted Garner, including Pantaleo, seen here apparently waving at the camera as he was being recorded.
And I'm not interested in talk, I'm interested in action, and I am absolutely committed as President of the United States to making sure that we have a country in which everybody believes in the core principle that we are equal under the law. So I just got off the phone with my Attorney General, Eric Garner. He will have more specific comments about the case in New York. But I want everybody to know here, as well as everybody who may be viewing my remarks here today, we are not going to let up until we see a strengthening of the trust and a strengthening of the accountability that exists between our communities and our law enforcement. And I say that as somebody who believes that law enforcement has an incredibly difficult job, that every man or woman in uniform are putting their lives at risk to protect us, that they have the right to come home, just like we do from our jobs, that there's real crime out there that they've got to tackle day in, day out, but that they're only going to be able to do their job effectively if everybody has confidence in the system. And right now, unfortunately, we are seeing too many instances where people just do not have confidence that folks are being treated fairly. And in some cases, those may be misperceptions, but in some cases, that's a reality. And it is incumbent upon all of us as Americans, regardless of race, region, faith, that we recognize this is an American problem and not just a black problem or a brown problem or a Native American problem. This is an American problem. When anybody in this country is not being treated equally under the law, that's a problem. And it's my job as president to help solve it.